Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. So do want to go ahead and get to a little bit of pseudo late breaking news from the world of college hoops, because we got a very interesting story on Tuesday morning in this world of college basketball that we talk about so much during the spring. And it frankly involves a program that all of a sudden we can't stop talking about here on this channel, and that's the BYU Cougars. Okay, so if you listen to this channel, you know it was probably, about 2.5 weeks ago that BYU got a commitment from a kid named Igor Demin, 6'8" guard, originally from Russia, who has decided to come play college basketball next year, heavily recruited. He is projected, by the way, as a lottery pick in the 2025 NBA draft, easily could have stayed overseas. Instead decides, you know what, I want to play college hoops. He was pursued by a lot of big-time programs, including John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks. He decides to go to BYU instead. Well, I bring it up because new BYU head coach Kevin Young, he ain't done, baby. No. And that is because on Tuesday, ironically, just one day after Igor Demin was officially announced by the school, well, guess what happened? BYU strikes pay dirt again in recruiting as Kanon Catchings, 6'10" forward/center, about a top 30, 35 prospect, depending on the recruiting ranking, high 4-star, low 5-star, was committed to Purdue, decommits a few weeks ago, and on Tuesday morning, he officially announces where he will play college basketball next year. And how about this? Kanon Catchings headed to Provo, Utah. Emphasis on the pro. He is headed to BYU to play for Kevin Young and this incredible staff. And let me say this. I want to break down the Kanon Catchings news, but I also want to contextualize it, because we are seeing something that I don't really remember ever seeing in all the years that I've covered college sports. And that's just a program, I don't want to say out of nowhere. BYU was ranked in the top 25 this year. This is not a shot at them. But the way that recruiting has upticked in just a few short months under Kevin Young and this new staff, it is unbelievable. It is awesome. And I think it's one of the coolest stories that I've seen in college hoops in a long time. So let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, Kanon Catchings, we need to talk about this kid just to start. As I said, 6'10" forward, interesting background, great genetics, by the way. Aunt is Tamika Catchings, Tennessee basketball and WNBA legend. His grandfather is Harvey Catchings, who played in the NBA for 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. So great genetics, commits to Purdue, and went to Overtime Elite, where I think really over the last year, he really blew up. This is a kid, he's not just 6'10". He is insanely skilled, can step out, can shoot the three, can put the ball on the floor, can finish at the rim. This is not, whoever, fill in the blank, back to the basket center. This is a new age kid. He himself, Kanon Catchings, we talked about Igor Demin. Kanon Catchings is projected as a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. And I do think that's part of what this whole thing is, and it speaks to what Kevin Young is building at BYU. Listen, Purdue fans don't think that I like him. BYU fans, that's another story from last year that you missed out on. You didn't miss anything. Purdue fans don't think I like him. But I bring it up because when he decommitted from Purdue, I think what he was saying was this. Purdue is an incredible program, just played for a national championship with an incredible system, but it's a system that generally guys don't thrive immediately. I believe I have the size, skill set, whatever, to be an NBA player sooner rather than later. And so I need to put myself into a system where I can be highlighted right away, play right away, hopefully produce right away, and get to the pros. Not saying Purdue is right, not saying Purdue is wrong, not saying BYU is right. What I am saying is I understand the decision from the kid, and it also shows how BYU has done an incredible job of rebranding itself over this past offseason. Kevin Young, coached with the Phoenix Suns, was the assistant, was the offensive mastermind behind Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and whatever. and he's come to Provo, and he has said, bottom line, end of story, we're going to run an NBA system with NBA offense. I'll leave the X's and O's to him because I can't explain what he's going to do or how he's going to do it, but it is clearly a message that is being received by players in college basketball. Because when I look at this BYU team, I look at those two players that we mentioned, Demon and Catchings. They're two of the highest rated recruits in the history of BYU basketball. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I think it's also worth noting, in an offseason where there were so many big coaching changes at Kentucky, changes at Louisville, changes at Arkansas, changes at BYU, whatever. I don't think we're giving Kevin Young enough credit for the guys that he retained off last year's team. Remember, last year's team, top 25 most of the season, won at Kansas, was a 6 seed in the tournament, probably should have been a 5 seed. But I just bring it up because we talk so much about all the new guys, all the this, all the that. But remember, they're bringing back Richie Saunders. They're bringing back Dallin Hall. They're bringing back Foos Traore. They're bringing back 4 players who averaged right around double figures per game. A couple of them were like 9.5. So don't get in my mentions and tell me how dumb I am because there weren't 4 players that averaged double figures. But the point is, he did an incredible job retaining guys. And then on top of that, I don't think people are realizing what is going on in recruiting. As I said, there is an argument that Igor Demon is the highest rated recruit, maybe the most coveted recruit that has ever committed to BYU. I don't claim to be an expert. Sean Bradley is obviously the name that comes to mind, eventual number 2 overall pick in the draft. Unfortunately, he's going through a lot of stuff right now personally with some major medical problems. But Sean Bradley's up there. There's maybe another guy or two. But BYU has never been a place that recruits these caliber players. It was interesting. I read an article basically where they said that really the BYU, the history is you focus on the LDS church. If there's a player with an LDS background like a Jabari Parker or whomever, you make a run at them. But I mean, this is just Kevin Young saying, this is my system. This is what we do. This is what we are going to do. Come here and I will get you ready for the pros. And so in addition to the returnees, in addition to Igor Demon, in addition to Kanon Catchings, who, oh, by the way, again, not a BYU expert, but probably somewhere like the top 10 in terms of most coveted players that have ever committed to BYU. And oh, by the way, there's 2 more just in this class. Take out Demon, take out Catchings. If you just look at the 2 freshmen that committed prior to this, Brody Kozlowski, right around a fringe top 100 recruit, 6'7" forward from Utah, is committed to BYU. Oh, by the way, Elijah Crawford was committed to Stanford, top 150 recruit, 3-star player. Another player, really, really, really good. So you're talking about 4 really good high school players, 2 potential first-round picks with a returning roster. And I'm telling you, I love this BYU team going into 2024, 2025. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and oversell it. The Big 12 is brutal, okay? I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend, they're going to win it all. No. But look, Kansas is really good. Iowa State returns a ton off the Sweet 16 team. Baylor has done an excellent job in the portal with Jeremy Roach, with Norchad Omier. Houston's a beast. But you start to look at this league. Tell me why BYU can't compete. Tell me why they're not a top 15 to 20 team in the country going into next year. I look at all these way too early top 25s. I have my own. AaronTorresOnline.com, okay? But I bring it up because of the fact that when I look at these top 25s, BYU is a top 25, probably top 20, maybe top 15 roster, okay? And what it speaks to is Kevin Young. But let me also just take it a step further. And it's where I started this little clip, this segment, and it's where I'll wrap too. I don't know that I ever really remember a story quite like what we're seeing at BYU, okay? And I was thinking about this, right? So let's put aside college football, because college football, 85 guys, it takes a while to build the roster and the infrastructure, whatever. Jim Harbaugh won a national championship in year 8, year 9. Dabo, it took 6-7 years. Kirby Smart, it really took about 6-7 years to get Georgia to where they are now. But even in basketball, I was thinking about this. I am now in my 30s. Most of the teams that were good when I was a kid, first starting to watch this sport, are basically the same teams. When I was a kid in the 90s, first watching college hoops, Kansas was really good. Kentucky was really good. UConn was really good. There were some teams that have fallen off. Indiana's certainly fallen off since the early 90s. Georgetown fell off. I'm a little young for the UNLV years, but they fell off. But for the most part, it's the same teams. And then you have the same, kind of tier system, class system, if you will. A school, and this is no disrespect, but it's just the truth. Kansas State's always kind of been good. I don't know that they've ever been great in my life. Kansas State is just an example. Xavier's always been good, but the ceiling's like a Sweet 16. That hasn't really changed. Creighton has been good, but the ceiling is a Sweet 16, maybe an Elite Eight. I bring it up because I don't ever really remember, outside of maybe Gonzaga, but even Gonzaga was that slow burn 15, 20 years to get to where they are now. I don't remember a program having a certain profile, which is what we discussed with BYU, kind of recruit the same guys, the same kind of tier system in college basketball to just boom, overnight. Now you're getting 5 stars and potential first-round picks. Now, again, I understand part of it is the NIL stuff. Listen, BYU obviously is very well taken care of. We've talked about it. Ryan Smith, Utah Jazz, is a benefactor of the program. But at the same time, to just see a coach come in, guns blazing, and say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and overnight flip a perception, it's unbelievable. By the way, this isn't a knock on Mark Pope either. Mark Pope was mostly recruiting to the WCC. Kevin Young is recruiting to the Big 12, whatever. But I just say, I don't know that I ever remember seeing anything quite like this. Just a program that has kind of recruited at the same level every single year, most of my life. All of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. You hire the right coach. He hires the right staff. You're fearless in recruiting. You're smart in recruiting, by the way. Igor Demon, typical kid, type of kid that maybe doesn't consider coming to the U.S. But Kevin Young has that background. He knows people overseas. He helps, I don't want to say he helps make it happen, but like the point I'm trying to make, I don't ever remember anything quite like it. I think this is one of the coolest stories that I have seen in college basketball. And it's funny, I was telling somebody I know, kind of in that BYU universe, I said, this is just really fun for me. I mean, because listen, I love what I do. Grateful for what I do. College football, college basketball, okay? But you kind of talk about the same teams and the same stories all the time. In football, it's Michigan and Alabama and, Georgia and whoever, Ohio State. In basketball, this time of year, it's mostly Kentucky and UConn and North Carolina and whatever. So to be talking BYU, to see this program emerge, to see this program turn into a recruiting juggernaut overnight, it's just really cool. Now, I know every non-BYU fan is going to say, let's see what happens when the games are played. I get it. I know recruiting in the spring doesn't equate to anything when the games are played in the winter. But it's really cool. It's a really fun story. And congrats, BYU fans. You got yourself a good one in Kanon Catchings, and you have a really fun team heading into 2024, 2025. I put this out on Twitter, by the way, at Aaron_Torres. Said, I've never been to Provo. Always wanted to go to the Marriott Center. I think next year I might have to make my first trip. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips and videos going up every single day. Also, make sure to go on to Apple, Spotify, download full episodes, and make sure to leave a nice rating and review.